Before we begin, I'd like to have a moment of silence in memory of those who lost their lives in the attacks in Paris and in honor of those who were wounded. Today, we must make this much clear. We are at war. The world was reminded last week that Islamist terrorists are seeking to harm our people, destroy our way of life, and undermine the foundational principles of the free world. The Paris attacks also confirmed our worst fears, that of the thousands of foreign fighters who have gone to Syria and Iraq to join ISIS, some would be deployed to bring terror back to the West. For more than a year, my committee has warned of this growing threat. We launched a bipartisan congressional task force to focus on closing security gaps, both at home and abroad, to make it harder for terrorists and foreign fighters to slip across the border undetected. More than 5,000 individuals with Western passports, including Americans, have gone to fight in Syria and Iraq, and some have already returned battle-hardened and prepared to strike. After the Charlie Hebdo attacks, we traveled to Paris and met with the counterterrorism officials on the ground who have known that Europe was wide open to this danger. And we conducted site visits along the jihadi superhighway from Western Europe to Turkey and then into the conflict zone. Our findings were alarming. This September, the committee's final task force report concluded that we are losing the struggle to stop Americans from going overseas to join jihadist groups. And it announced that the gaping security weaknesses overseas are putting the U.S. homeland and our allies in danger. These worries have materialized. We know that jihadists exploited these gaps to plot and execute the worst terrorist attack on French soil since World War II. The world is now looking to America for leadership and for a clear-eyed understanding of the threat. ISIS is not contained, as the President says. ISIS is expanding globally and is plotting aggressively. In a matter of weeks, it executed major external terrorist plots on 3 continents, destroying a Russian airliner, conducting suicide bombings in Lebanon, and launching a mass attacks on the streets in Paris. ISIS is now responsible for more than 60 terrorist plots against Western targets, including 18 in the United States. Here at home, we have arrested more than 70 ISIS supporters over the last year. That's on average more than 1 per week. And the FBI says that it has nearly 1,000 ISIS-related investigations in all 50 states. If this is not a war, then I don't know what is. America cannot wait for terrorists to launch their next attack. The security of the free world depends on our response, and we must respond immediately. We can start by securing the homeland. Our task force report will not sit on the shelf. We are taking action to turn our recommendations into reality. Soon we will release legislation designed to help close security loopholes and keep terrorists from reaching our shores. We will also work to make sure terrorists do not infiltrate refugee flows to sneak into our country, as some apparently did to reach France. Today, we released a report laying out the preliminary findings of a nearly year-long investigation into counterterrorism challenges associated with Syrian refugee flows. The results of this review are sobering. While we are proud of our humanitarian tradition of welcoming refugees into our country, this is a special case. The President's own intelligence and law enforcement officials have warned this committee of the risk involved with the Syrian refugee program in the high-threat environment, and I have to take them at their word. I've called upon the President to temporarily suspend Syrian refugee admissions into the United States until we can improve the screening and vetting process. But we cannot wait for the President to take action. Congress will act immediately to make sure the system is more secure. Americans are worried about the terror threat level, and my promise to the American people is that we are working hard to strengthen this country's defenses. And my promise to our allies is that we stand ready to help you to do the same. But as we will discuss today, the rise of radicalism cannot be reversed without confronting the problem at its source: terrorist sanctuaries where jihadists recruit, train, and plot against us. In Syria, we are witnessing the largest global convergence of jihadists in world history, yet the President's plan is to contain rather than roll back the threat. And what we have seen as a policy of containment leads to a constant stream of terror. We need a strategy for victory in the war against Islamist terror, and that strategy must begin in Syria. Our enemies have said that the latest attack is just the beginning of a storm, and our message back to them must be clear. You have fired the first shot in this struggle, but rest assured, America will fire the last. I want to thank our witnesses for joining us here today. Each of you worked in different ways on our front lines in this long struggle. Look forward to your insights. And with that, the Chair now recognizes the Chairman